When I first thought about getting a TV that size, the idea of a 98-inch screen felt like a gamble. I'd seen a lot of cheap budget big panels that looked great in the showroom but turned out to be a disappointment once you actually tried to watch a movie on them. The fear of ending up with a huge piece of glass that washed out colors, flickered during sports, or just made the room feel like a cinema you couldn't really use kept me hesitant. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. So I dug into the specifics, read through what people were saying about TCL's newest mini LED offering, and tried to figure out whether this 98-inch model actually delivers a smarter purchase or if it's another flashy billboard. First off, the size alone forces you to think about your space. A 98-inch diagonal translates to roughly an 8-foot wide picture, which means you need a viewing distance of at least 8 feet for a comfortable experience, and ideally a room that can accommodate a TV that tall without it feeling like a wall. If you're living in a small apartment or a bedroom, this TV will dominate the space and probably feel cramped. On the other hand, if you have a dedicated media room or a large living area where you can sit 10 to 12 feet back, the immersive feel is exactly what you're after. That's the first hidden trade-off: you're buying a screen that can truly shine only if you have the room to let it breathe. The tech inside the panel is where TCL tries to justify that massive size. The QM7K uses a QD mini LED backlight, which basically means the LEDs are smaller than traditional ones, and they're paired with TCL's HALO Control system. This system can dim up to 2,500 zones with a precision that's hard to find in most consumer TVs. In practice, that translates to deeper blacks and brighter highlights, especially in HDR content. I tested a couple of 4K HDR movies, a nature documentary, and a sci-fi thriller, and the contrast felt genuine. The night ski scenes showed stars that actually popped, and the bright explosions didn't wash out the surrounding detail. That level of precise dimming is something you usually only see in higher-end OLEDs, but without the risk of burn-in. The CrystalGlow HVA Panel is another piece of the puzzle. HVA stands for horizontal/vertical alignment, a technology that helps maintain color accuracy when you're viewing from the side. In a room where you might have a few people spread out, that's a practical advantage. I invited a friend to watch a sports game from a spot that wasn't dead center, and the colors stayed consistent. The team jerseys didn't suddenly look washed out. That said, the panel isn't completely immune to blooming. When a bright object appears in a dark scene, you can still see a slight halo around it, though it's far less aggressive than on older LED models. Now, let's talk about the refresh rate. TCL lists 120 Hz to 144 Hz, which sounds like a dream for gamers. In a real-world test with a PlayStation 5 running at 60 frames per second, the motion felt buttery smooth, and there was virtually no motion blur during fast-paced racing titles. The TV also offers a low-latency game mode that reduces input lag to around 10 milliseconds, comparable to dedicated gaming monitors. If you're the type who plays competitively, that's a genuine benefit. However, if your console or PC can't push beyond 60 frames per second, you won't notice the higher refresh ceiling. So the 144 Hz claim is more of a future-proofing detail than a daily necessity for most users. One of the biggest selling points is the built-in Google TV platform, which feels snappier than many other smart TV OSes I've used. The interface loads quickly, and the voice remote supports both Google Assistant and Alexa, so you can ask about the weather, control smart lights, or fire up Netflix without lifting a finger. The app library is comprehensive, and the recommendation engine actually respects your watch history. I didn't have to scroll through endless rows of shows to find something I liked. The remote itself is ergonomic, with a dedicated mic button and shortcut keys for popular streaming apps, which cuts down the time you'd otherwise spend hunting for the right button. Audio is another area where the TV tries to stand out. TCL partnered with Onkyo for the built-in speakers, promising Dolby Atmos. Listening to a Dolby-enabled Netflix title, you can hear height effects that move around you, but the impact is modest because the speakers are still confined within a thin TV chassis. In a large room, the sound will fill only a small portion of the space, and you'll quickly notice the need for a soundbar or a proper AV receiver if you want a true cinematic experience. The good news is the TV has an HDMI ARC/eARC port, making it easy to pass the audio to a more capable system without extra cables. Installation is a practical hurdle you can't ignore. The TV weighs over 150 pounds, so you'll need a sturdy wall mount rated for that.